I would say marketers are responsible for the demise of more businesses than anybody has ever worked out. Your staff will not tell you what's going wrong or how to change. It's not in their interests to. This video consultancy is the most significant and important information I believe you will ever hear. The most important thing in business is to ensure longevity. What's happened recently and over the past 10 years is having a massive negative effect on so many B2B businesses. The processes and strategies, tactics as well, that are communicated within that industry, that marketing industry, they don't work. If you go back 10 years when marketing automation platforms came out, everybody said it was the best, they were the best things since sliced bread, and everybody bought into them. So you've got Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, and a host of others. They're the larger ones. So you think, well, if all these organisations have bought into them, why would I say something like they don't work? You have to look at the logic. On paper, it looks great. In order to get somebody into your funnel, you offer them something, they want it, and in return there's an exchange, a transaction happens, they give you an email address and you give them some content. That sounds all right. The trouble is the content any good? That's one element to it. And secondly, why should they? Now the trouble with transactional engagement is, what else happens? Well, we know that everyone gets cold called. I don't like it and you don't like it. I know you don't. You will not take a cold call from anybody, nor will I. If we look at cold calling in itself, it's a 200 to 1 shot. You have BDRs and telesales people looking to try and connect with people that might be interested. And if they are, then they're told to send something or send me an email if they are marginally interested or not. And the telesales person or BDR, their objective is to try and make an appointment, which that person doesn't want. So it seems okay, but when you look at the content itself, how is it written? Who wrote it? How do you know it's any good? What's the response? Do your prospects actually like it or not? Have you asked them? These sorts of things don't happen. So let's kind of look at some of the other factors here. Over the past 10 years and beyond, the rate of business failure has remained the same. About 500,000 businesses fail every year. So automation's not had an impact on that. The average turnover per person per annum, sub 10 people, is about 100 grand per person, or about 80 grand per person per annum. Up to about 5 million is 100 grand per person per annum. And above 5 million, you're looking about, or above 50 people, it's about 150 grand per person per annum. They're about, on varying scales. You think, okay, and Google do 1.2 million per person per annum. They seem to have their ratios right. And so do many other companies. But they tend to be in the manufacturing or B to both, as in they sell to B2C, to consumers, and they sell to businesses. So you can see that there's a big issue here regarding ratios. But your marketing people are not telling you how to adapt or adjust or change those ratios. What happened is that because of marketing automation, the marketing leaders wanted a piece of the action. Salespeople were getting paid commission, marketing wanted a piece. And so in order to get a piece of the action, they were given KPIs like salespeople were. And that's one of the problems, because you're giving KPIs to something that's emotional. And I think it was along the lines of if something can be measured, then you can manage it. You have that with the salespeople. So that's what people did. They put marketing automation in, they managed it, they managed the clicks beforehand, they managed the effectiveness of social media banners and clicks and ads and so on. And you measured that return on marketing investment, the ROMIs. But it's not changed anybody's income. More work. I mean, I've seen some of the recruitment job descriptions for marketing people. Staggering, absolutely staggering. You wouldn't dream of demanding that of anybody else in any other department of a company. But the work that's expected of marketing people, staggering. They can't do it. They don't do it. And that's the problem. So you go down this path of using marketing automation, but in order for it to work, you've got to pay Google. So you've done two things. You've stopped people from being able to find your content by hiding it behind an email form, and then to get people to find it, you pay Google for them to come and for them to find it based upon the auction price that you're prepared to pay per click. So if you've bid enough, then you might get them. But then you've got the other post-click stuff, which is once they click on the banner, what's your landing page like? Do they like it? Is it clear enough? And then, of course, you want their inside leg measurement for them to download your document, which you don't know if it's any good or not. And the trouble is, the only people, I say the only people, but the best people to confirm whether or not your piece of content is any good is Google. But you've just hidden it from Google because if your customers can't see it, nor can Google. And so it becomes a flawed process. All you want to do, all the salespeople want as many people as possible to know what it is your company sells so they can go and sell it to them. Hiding it behind an email form, bad news for them because it restricts your exposure. And that's the reality of what's going on now, is most businesses in the B2B space have had their exposure severely restricted because of marketers. Oh, the irony. And of course, these people talk about this issue between sales and marketing, the friction between sales and marketing. Marketing people say, it's not our problem. Salespeople can't sell. And the salespeople say exactly the same, going back the other way. So there's a fundamental problem, and it's been made worse because of lockdowns. You have a situation where your prospects don't want to talk to you, and the flip side is you can't talk to them anyway because you can't connect with them. They're working from home. People won't give out their mobiles. You can't email them because they can just delete it like they did before. They won't take your phone calls, but they didn't do that before either. So now most businesses are left high and dry. So whilst there was a bit of a survival mode called furlough, when that disappears, we're getting back to the nitty-gritty, which is you're either moving forward or moving backwards. You're growing or dying, one or the other. And that's what makes this message, this information. One is to give you this information, for you to consider it, then to understand, and I'll come on to that in a minute, then come on to the next part, which is, okay, now we can see where it's gone wrong and who's responsible for it. The marketing recruitment companies know that the positions that they appoint marketers in will get churned in 18 months. The average tenure for a CMO, a senior marketing people, is 18 months in the UK and in the States. So you're paying top dollar, top pounds for senior marketing personnel that come on board and get fired. And the reason they get fired is two reasons. They come on and promise the earth. They tell you that they're going to set your world alight and you're going to be flying. And you realise they don't, and you get rid of them. And the reason it's 18 months, they come in, 3 months to get their feet under the desk, a year to implement their plan, or less. And bearing in mind 18 months is an average, so some are less and some are a bit more, but a year to implement their plan, and then 3 months to get a new job. It's 18 months. In times of recession, first department to get hammered, marketing. People that make the biggest noise about marketing recruitment and marketing jobs, the marketers saying, oh, the companies that are most successful, they increase their marketing during a recession. Really? So what I'm saying is that business owners instinctively know there's a problem, and that's why they take a hit. So there you go. You've got a fundamental problem. You've got marketing automation that has decimated so many businesses. Where is it now? It doesn't work for businesses now because you can't connect with them. It wasn't working beforehand. And every attempt that you did make, if people looked at your website, people using platforms like Lead Forensics, which can analyze people's IP addresses and match IP addresses against telephone numbers and company names and provide you with that information so you can go and cold call them again. But because that's all that's on offer, demand gen, lead gen, marketing automation and all associated digital marketing is failing. It failed quite a long time ago, but it's getting worse by the month. And now in this COVID lockdown scenario, businesses are just failing left, right and centre, sadly. Is there a way out? Yes, there is. And that's the next part of what I'm going to talk about. So where do we start? Where's the best place to start? Well, it's content. And there's a reason for this. People engage with content. We know that. Everybody knows that. But it's all well and good talking about content, but what type of content? The first stage, and I call this kind of secondary content. We'll get on to primary and product in a minute, but your secondary content. If you can't phone and directly connect with people, how are you going to do it? Well, you've got a database, you're using Salesforce probably. So what you do is you invite them. You invite them to watch your weekly live show. You create a schedule and you invite them to look at your schedule. This is what we've got planned for the next 6 weeks. Come and join us. Come and join us anonymously, because that's what people want to do. They don't want to tell you who they are. They just want to pitch up and have a look. Do I like what they're saying? Well, this is interesting. Not seen this before. Get them on live streaming. You can do it with an iPhone. You don't need I'm surrounded by equipment here, but you don't need all this gear. But the point is understanding the logic behind it, because if the previous infrastructure was and is failing, then you have to gradually move on to something different. So the first part of it is your secondary content, news and live streaming, and invite them. Your primary content, you've got secondary, primary, and just here, this diagram, this infographic shows there's general, secondary, primary, and product. General information is, I don't know, it could be someone got a gold star as a member of staff, or something happened that was relevant to a supplier and it's between you and the supplier. This information isn't actually of any interest to prospects, so that's general. We've just mentioned about your secondary content, secondary type content, and then your primary. So your primary content is your how-to. How do you use your products? How do you implement your products? What are the case studies of the products? Information that people are genuinely interested in. And that's where your primary content comes into play. One of the key things about primary content is the construction of it. I've seen just hundreds and hundreds of companies. Their content on their website, on their articles, their blogs, consists of a few paragraphs. And like I was saying at the beginning the beginning of this series, Google are the people that determine whether you have good content or not. And the way they do that, this this information I've got up now, this is a typical structure that Google demand. And the reason I say they demand it is because Google understand what people read. Google understand how long people read for, because they've got all the analytics information. So they know what it is, how long they read, how long they get them, that you are able to maintain their engagement. And so your articles that constitute a good document should be between 2,000 and 6,000 words long, have bullet points, bullet lists, number lists, graphics, detailed graphics within it, as in small infographics, embedded video, and a sequence of they call it H1, H2, H3, but these are titles, like a large title is next size down. But the importance of these, it tells Google what is the actual name of the article itself, and what are the subheadings, and that tells Google how you've constructed and formatted the layout of that document. And there is a grammar check, and not just a spell checker, but a method that says this information can be understood by 12-year-olds, so therefore it can be assimilated quickly. So that's your primary content. And that logic, as we've got here, I can put up a video, I can put up an infographic which you've seen, we can look at secondary B-roll, and it can be pictures of London or something like that, which you can cut away. That's what engaging information looks like as far as video is concerned, but the same thought process has to go into how you produce your written articles. And finally, you move on to product. You've seen product videos, you've seen people presenting or demonstrating products, your own and other people's. And that information needs to be shown on video as well. All of this leads to that ultimate desire, which is a call to action, which is they contact you. They tell you, we've seen what you've written. We've seen what you've presented. We like what you've done. If they're going to be spending tens of thousands of pounds with you, they have every right to understand how you think. And the only way you can present to someone or to give them an indication about how you think is by writing and by doing video and by doing live streams and by doing podcasts. And podcasts in themselves, more decision makers listen to podcasts than other types of people in B2B. And we're kind of at a point where it's like saying, these aren't options anymore. These are absolute necessities. And there is an absolutely fundamental reason for this, is that overall, the process is cheaper, more cost effective and more profitable than what you've been doing over the past 5 or 10 years. And that's, you've got to go some to be able to justify for me to justify what I've just said, or anybody else. But it's true. You have to understand the communications mechanics to flip your business to start making it profitable again. And it can be done irrespective of COVID, irrespective of lockdowns. But more's the point, irrespective of marketing automation, because it is not the answer. Now, the other point about all of this is if you follow this strategy, strategy works 24/7. It works 365. You see, one of the big problems is that when businesses start, they all start in the same fashion, the same way. And you'll understand what I'm saying. When I started, it was 1987. It was, let's go and start a company. We were cold calling then. We were knocking on doors. We were doing all that kind of stuff. The barrier to entry to market was easy. There was no barrier. Just get out there and do it. But things have changed. And so each iteration, each kind of reinvention of oneself, you kind of always got that in the back of your mind, thinking, well, we can always revert to cold calling. We can always go back to that, can't we? Always go, whether you're knocking on doors or people still doing it. But it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. It's not cost effective. But it wasn't so much the cold calling that was the issue. It was, have you got a really good product? And that was key. You know, your mum says, oh, so you've got a lovely product there. It's great. Not good enough. So if we look at the way businesses start now, they go, right, we're going to start a business, we're going to get some money, we get some investment, and away we go. And they do that. And once they get the money and they get things moving, if they do get the investment or they invest it themselves, once they get things moving, then we're going to get someone involved in marketing. Really? The reality of this needs to be, before we invest a penny, we will confirm that we can market this business. And that can be done even with paper. I mean, I derided pay-per-click earlier, but if you look at this type of stuff, you can say, right, well, a quick advert, use pay-per-click. If people click on it, we've probably got the makings of a good product. And that's what doesn't happen. So now if we're looking at how do you communicate a digital message, the only way you can do that is by producing the content and getting it out there. And let the customers decide. And if it doesn't work, change it. If it doesn't work, change it. Keep changing it until it starts working. And that's all you can do, because there's no other option. There's no other alternative. Oh, you could go on television. But most businesses haven't got the budget for television. But you have got a budget to do this digitally. And what's more important to understand is that if you do this digitally, you can be absolutely laser targeted, laser focused on your vertical market. You can decide on exactly who your target market is and produce content expressly for that target market, and even for those individuals. This goes way beyond ABM. This is being focused on who they are, what they do, and inviting them to engage with you anonymously to begin with. It's a game changer. So that's kind of the second part. So we covered the first part, why are we in this mess? The second part is, what is the content? What's available? What's the information? What needs to be done? What should it look like? Everybody knows how to email someone. That's not the point. The point is having your marketing people, if you're going to still keep them on, but having people that are genuine content creators. And this is where your salespeople come into their own, because they're the people that have made a living out of communicating face to face. They're the ones that have fronted your company. And there are people within your organisation who are affable and communicative and fun to be with. Get them in front of the camera. So that's it. That's the middle part of this. The third part and final part is about how to structure your business for the long term. And I'll come on to that in just a minute. Once you've made the decision to become a digital first business, you then have to look at the infrastructure, your own infrastructure. It's all well and good saying, great, well, we'll look at doing this. But the main point here is how do you structure a business if you're driving all of this content in this particular way? How and why should it work? The simplest way, I think, to present this or to communicate this is it's cheaper and requires less people, is more profitable, and is less grief than anything that you've ever done before. So that's a starting point. What I've got here is a new organisational chart. If we start from left to right, first of all, we've got technical. Everything to do with the company is supported by technical. That's all your hardware, all your software across the board. That's hardware and software for marketing as well. All of it gets supported by technical. And the reason being is because of the massive churn within marketing, the technology that people use leaves with them, or the expertise in that technology leaves with them if they go. That's not good enough. The business must be in control and must be able to manage and support and train anybody that needs to be trained by staff that are looked after within the company. So it's a safeguard process of making sure that you're able to train people in the software, whoever comes or goes. Secondly, we of course understand what marketing is, what marketing we're doing. But if you replace that person who would run marketing, replace the CMO and call them the editor-in-chief for argument's sake. The editor is the person that oversees the production of written content, video content, audio content, and live content. You have presenters, researchers, reporters, copywriters. All these different people produce the content. The key thing about this is that you can employ them full-time or you can contract them. So think about that, because at the end of the day, once you produce the information and it's been approved by whoever you decide to approve it, not just you, but external parties, prospects, customers, suppliers, and so on, different people that can say, I love that. That's a great document. And people that are looking to buy from you. So, well, what do you think of this? Get them to read it, get their feedback, and then publish it, then make it, then promote it, and so on. So that's the point of doing this. So your middle tier, as you can see, just going back to the editor-in-chief, you have a raft of people, all of which can be contracted. And finally, you have the revenue side of things. Now, revenue is obviously run by a chief revenue officer. Within that, you've got pre-sales, existing sales, post-sales, customer support, customer success, installation, training, maintenance, queries, tech support for customers, the whole list. All of that has an impact on revenue, and therefore that comes under the chief revenue officer. But overseeing all of this, as you can see right at the very top, is the chief growth officer. And it's based upon growing your business, making sure that tech and editorial and revenue is all taken care of. So you can see without, it doesn't need a wholesale change immediately because it needs to be processed. But if you think about digital transformation and what that means, yes, it's about engagement with your customers. Your customers are internal and external. Your customers are your staff. Your customers are paying people. But at the end of the day, it's the company needs to be in a position where it can communicate its message effectively. And that's where the whole digital transformation comes into its own, especially with this. And this is all part and parcel of it. And so the expectation that customers have is that they want to dip in. They want to be engaged with you and know that you can support them for the long term. And that's why it's critical that you're able to communicate your message in a method and in a format that they can dip in, look at it, and dip out, dip in and dip out. And ultimately they say what they can say, right, well, we like how you think, we like how you present, we like how you've demonstrated how you support us, how you will look after us for the long term. So we'll buy from you. Your happy days. Where's the salespeople? All the work's been done. So the costs that are typically incurred by a company by a large sales team and commission being paid to them, it's gone. So the company gets to keep more of the revenue. Yes, there's a shift to the people that need to do part of the editorial work under what used to be called marketing. But if you're looking at paying a commission or a bonus, who gets it? Share it between everybody else, because they've been part of the process. The selling bit, after you've engaged them on a live show, you've sent them information, they've watched customer stories, they've looked at how it works, how you install it, how you support it, how you deal with tech support, everything. Who's done the sale? You have. A salesman doesn't need to go out there. And if he does, might need 1 or 2 salespeople to look after the UK. But that's if someone really, really, really needs them to go and see them, one-to-one, face-to-face. So that's the, once you allow this process, this restructuring to percolate and for you to think about it, the long-term success of your company now depends on it. It must change. COVID has seen to that. And that's what, I suppose that you could say, not suppose, if you need help, call us. Any step of the way. When it comes to video, think about this along this line. If you wanted Steven Spielberg to come and direct your videos, then fine, go and get Steven Spielberg. Cost you a few quid, but they'd do it. But the key thing, there's a difference between shooting a corporate video that says, look at our massive building, look at our enormous boardroom, which customers are not interested in. It's a bit like pitching up somewhere in a Rolls Royce. And they see you pitching up in a Rolls Royce. They go, well, I'm not going to buy from them. Not if they're smoking around in a Rolls Royce. The same applies to corporate videos. They're only really good for shareholders in certain cases and the like. Customers not interested. They want to see the whites of your eyes. They want to see your authenticity. Our job, our role as entrepreneurs, you and I, is to look at the situations that we are placed in, look at what we got, and adjust and adapt. And that's what this is about. There's a problem with marketing. There has been for a long time. It's been exacerbated because of COVID and lockdowns. And that process, over the past nearly a year now, has helped me better understand, or is it better understand? Maybe not better understand, but become more determined to not allow marketing automation technology to damage B2B any longer. And by the way, I've made a point of saying about B2B, it works for B2C. It does. I use it. If I see something and I like it, I know I can get hold of it and read it. And unfortunately, about 7 times out of 10, the information is rubbish anyway. And so I had to go and unsubscribe almost immediately, because then I'm just getting a deluge of emails. But thanks to GDPR, they have to not contact you. So the same thing happens with B2B, that people don't end up saying, right, the information is no good, unsubscribe. And that's what a lot of companies have problems with. People download the information, then they unsubscribe. That's because the information was no good, or you started sending them too many emails, and so on, and the list goes on. So that's where we're at. I'm going to wind this up now. There is no choice. I don't see there being any choice. And the fact that any business can make a change, can make a start by just, you hold up a mobile phone and start recording live. It's quite staggering, the quality and technology that's available just in the latest iPhones. But there's more to it. And there's another part to this in terms of office space. The lockdown has forced everybody to work at home. Video and video production is still allowed. So, more people are working from home. You've got more space at your office. Convert some of your space to studio usage per se, and get your gear set up and start using it. And that's what we recommend. And we can come in and help you set everything up and buy all the right gear and so on and so on. But that's the point. So that's it from me. Hope you liked this. Hope you enjoyed this. It's a bit of a serious message, but then being in business is a serious matter. And if we want to stay in business, then if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And this is about change. And not change for change's sake, but looking at this entrepreneurially and saying, right, We're going to nail this. The fight is on. Let's get out there and make it happen, and be more effective and be more profitable. We're not social services. We're not in business to fund people. We're in business to make money. And that's the reality of all of this. And no matter what gets thrown at us, we will go out there and make it happen and adapt and change. That's it. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.